It is midweek extra. Big sigh. Liverpool have played a game of football last night that they did not win. They drew, which is an unusual experience, but wasn't exactly what we wanted. But to go through all of that and to look ahead to Leeds United away in part 3, I've got Mo Stewart, I've got Fuad Hasan, and I've got Adam Smith. And I've seen a couple of people saying, oh, you know, it's baby steps at the moment. 4 points from 2 games isn't too bad, but I don't know about you. I struggled to get past the performance, really, and I was expecting much better from Liverpool following up from that West Ham game than we saw last night.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there was a level of expectation set by the West Ham game, I think. But I don't know. The thing that I keep thinking really is that I think nobody's adjusted their expectations. Everyone's acknowledged that this season is a bag of crap, but nobody has made any adjustments to what they're expecting from the season. I saw a really good thing on Blue Sky before. Somebody messaged me. I can't remember who it was. I'm really sorry. But they said that the problem is that everyone's still acting like this Liverpool team's going to chase down Arsenal. We're not going to chase down Arsenal. So actually, getting a draw is not terrible. I mean, actually, it's an improvement on what we've seen lately. But the other thing I thought myself was that we also are not accepting, or we're thinking of newly promoted Sunderland as the shite, they should turn up and we'll batter them. But at the same time, everyone's also said Sunderland have been really good this season.
Well, they were above us in the table.
So I had a look before we came out, and they are, sorry, before the game kicked off, they were 6th on 22 points. They are 2 points away from Villa and Chelsea in the Champions League, or 4th and 5th. And they're on the same number of points as Nottingham Forest were at this point last season, and who were then a point behind Manchester City last season. So if we'd have drawn with any of those teams, you might not have come away and gone, that's terrible, this is dreadful, blah, 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 because of they're the teams they are. But because it's Sunderland, we're all sort of expecting, you know, we're just going to turn and we're just going to roll them. So I think you're right in terms of it wasn't, like, the performance just wasn't very good in a lot of different aspects. I think all of you were at the game, so you didn't have to listen to Jamie Carragher act as if it's the worst performance Liverpool have ever put in their lives. But you know, I don't think it was that bad, but it wasn't very good, and that is ultimately what you were saying, is that it just wasn't great, and that's what I think people are finding really frustrating. Is it feels like 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
Yeah. I take Adam's point on the position that we're in at the moment and the position that Sunderland are in, but if we'd have played better and drew 1-1, I might have confident a little bit better. Kevin Phillips, funnily enough, was in the away end. I remember going to Anfield in 2001 and we drew 1-1, and Kevin Phillips scored a great goal. He was obviously a brilliant footballer, but then we equalised, and that was a good game. And I came away thinking, well, you know, similar way, you know, but we played all right. I thought we were lucky to get a point, to be honest with you, and that's not a really nice feeling.
No, and I mean, if you think about the last big goal-scoring moment, it was for them. It wasn't for Liverpool, was it? And so, had that happened, it would have been the similar story to Palace, to Chelsea, to United, go behind, get the equaliser, and still lose. And that feels awful. And we already know how awful that feels because we've done it a few times. Funnily actually enough, I saw Kevin Phillips in the press box. He was doing double duty. He was in the stands, but he was also in the press box.
You just went in for the pitch. Went back for the past 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Fair play.
He was
cold, John. It's cold.
Yeah, he was there eating the beef chili with all of that. No, he had to have a big Cheshire Cat grin on his face after the game. So yeah, it's strange. I've done a lot of looking into Sunderland, doing lots of preview chat and all that kind of stuff, and I agree with Adam that we are going to have to start thinking differently about them. But I also think that I watched them play away at Old Trafford and Man United dominated them. I watched them play in their last away game of Fulham and they weren't very good. So Liverpool didn't really have to have an elite performance to win that game. And again, like you were saying, the performance, it wasn't just the fact that we were hoping for better off the back of another win. We were hoping for a bit more confidence. But Sunderland were expecting Liverpool to be better. Like, I think that's a really damning indictment.
Yeah.
And there were so many moments watching that game where there's a Liverpool player on the ball and it looks like he doesn't know what to do. So he passes it to the guy who's nearest to him, who doesn't know what to do, who passes it to the guy nearest to him, and then suddenly that first guy's got the ball back and nothing has changed.
Yeah.
And we watched that almost for like 40 minutes without anything really changing. And so you start to lose faith in the overall arching plan. And I think that's the most damaging part at the moment.
Something I never like to see from an opposition team is them gain confidence, because I think that suggests you're doing something wrong, and we've seen it at times when we've been struggling at Anfield, that a team will come and then they'll set up and then they'll be like, hang on, there's something in this for us, and then suddenly they're taking, more shots, they're getting more men forward. That suggests to me that something's going wrong, and the manager came out afterwards and said he was surprised how much space they got, and I mean, that's not a great sentence either.
No, absolutely not. I think, our manager mentioned after the game about Anfield as well, kind of losing that kind of aura of invincibility that we managed to build for so many years. And you could see that early on. Usually sides come and the hope is kind of suffocated out of them, because Liverpool, can have, even if they're playing in a low block, Liverpool will just choke them and pin them in areas, that they're comfortable being, yes, but it'll be pressure wave after wave after wave. And I think part of it is also when you're low on confidence and you're playing against a side who are going to be really comfortable behind the ball, like they did for large parts of that game, and knew that they'd have the opportunities to pounce when Liverpool would make a mistake or whatever. That's sometimes even harder to do when you're low on confidence than playing in an open game, because you go off instinct in that situation, don't you? That's probably what we saw against Real Madrid. That's probably what we saw against Villa for large parts. Then be able to play off instinct, the kind of pace of the game being such that they either adapt or die. But when the onus is on you, when you've got to play a few cute balls, be sharp, be a bit courageous, really. I think when you're low on confidence, all of that becomes so difficult suddenly. And it was a kind of a case of all the players, except maybe Florian Wirtz, kind of looking at each other like, no, you take it. And like Mo was saying, playing that simple ball that was next to you, rather than any kind of pattern of play emerging. And that for me is the most kind of just difficult thing to kind of stomach right now, is that I don't really see what the forward plan is. I get putting players in there who need minutes to build fitness. But in terms of patterns of play, in terms of how Liverpool want to score a goal, really, I'm not quite seeing what that kind of plan is as such. And that's a really hard thing to say with this Liverpool side who've had such a strong identity, who've had such strong partnerships all over the pitch. Right now, it just feels like the balance is off, but also the kind of longer term view and plan, I just don't really have any clarity on that.
Yeah, and in terms of how they approached the game, Adam, you sort of wonder what the plan was. He picked a very similar team. It was just Robertson and Verkerker, so one swap. So he's obviously thought, well, we won that game, we'll try and keep the confidence going. It looked like the players tried to approach it in a similar way and thought, well, we'll give nothing away and then we'll back ourselves to get a couple of goals like we did against West Ham. Unfortunately, they make a bad mistake at the back, or Virgil makes a bad mistake at the back, which they didn't really do against West Ham, and also they're playing against a team who had a little bit more threat than what they did. But it did look to me like they just thought, well, we could not coast through it, but manage our way through it, and someone will kick it in the back of the net. That was the only plan I could see in front of me. But I don't know about you.
Yeah, in the West Ham game, the commentators kept saying it's like a training game for Liverpool. And then they seemed to treat the Sunderland game as the same thing. They carried on with that same mentality, and that wasn't the point. It was a training game once we went 2-0 up. We had to fight initially for it. And I think there's no one in the team really that... I think Szoboszlai is really the only person for pretty much the whole season that can hold his head up high and be like, I've performed well at the level that is expected of people who are playing for Liverpool. But even he didn't do very well as the game wore on last night. He started to lose his way a little bit. Van Dijk, I actually think quietly he's had more poor games than he's had good games for us this season, and he's just got away with it because Konate has been so bad that Konate's basic. Honestly, he's walking around with clown shoes on, so no one's talking about Van Dijk. It's wild, that side of things, that I think just no one's really talking about it. So they're just. Look, I think I'm really sorry to keep banging the same drum over and over and over again, but I think it's important too. I read a thread on, or whatever the hell it's called, on Reddit last night, which was a transcript. Who am I?
Generally, how are they?
Oh, how are they? Fine.
Like, what are they like as a gang?
Yeah, all right. I mean, I was saying to Fuad, because I've given up Twitter because of the whole Nazi salute and stuff. I fill my doom scrolling with Reddit now, but it is a lot better.
Oh,
like,
good.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it's all right.
We did that Ask Me Anything. Apparently, they were all right. I might start dipping into it.
It's good. Yeah,
Sorry
it
to
is.
sidetrack,
No,
but,
don't worry. Yeah,
I need to know where I'm going to do my doom scroll.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it is.
Because what else am I going to do? Talk to my family?
So, don't think so. No, because I was saying to Fu, there was a thing on there where somebody said, has anybody got any interesting facts that would blow a 4-year-old's mind at bedtime? And the first one I read in the thing was somebody said that the average the average elephant weighs less than a blue whale's tongue. And I was like, never mind a 4-year-old, that's blowing my mind. I haven't read any of the others, I just stopped there.
That's a great
Anyway, elsewhere on Reddit, somebody had put a transcript of an interview with a player who had signed. It was all in Dutch, and he's translated it from the Dutch. He'd signed for Sevilla just before one of their players died of a heart attack. And the thing was all about him as a player talking about what it was like to lose a teammate. And he was like, it was just like, it took us months to get over it, and nothing was normal. And you would think that going for a home game is great, but it's not, because everything at a home game reminds you of the player that you used to play with. He was like, it was difficult for me because I hadn't long signed, so I didn't know him very well, but the fella next to me was best mates with him, so he's having one reaction, I'm having another reaction, the fella over there's having a different reaction, and the manager's trying to hold it all together, but the manager knew him as well, and so the manager's lost somebody, so I'm almost, I like, this is very, very personal, and nobody else has to have the same opinion as me at all, ever. I am like giving them almost like a free pass this season, as long as they don't get relegated. I'm giving everybody like a free pass this season, because I just think it's impossible to quantify what happened with Diogo Jota and how the players are reacting to it. And I know that makes it terrible and shit and a waste of like time to say like, oh, the Anfield Wrap has to do reaction shows, and every time you're just like, well, Jota died. Like, I know it can't be like that, but at the same time, I'm not going to get too on the manager's back and say I can't see any patterns of play, because he might be telling them, because he said after the game when they came in at half time, I was like, you've got to move it quicker, you've got to be faster on the ball, you've got to have more energy. He might have sent them out there with that. But then Kanate makes a slip up, and then everybody's going, oh God, that's happened again. Everything's against, like that. That mentality is taken in. So I think it's so difficult to make any proper, sensible analysis of games like last night with all that there. And I know that's maybe a bit of a cop-out, and it's not helpful when you're doing this, where you're doing loads of shows about it and everything. But it is the sort of thing where I'm like, I don't know whether. Let me rephrase it, or let me maybe make it a bit more succinct. What I would love to know is whether the players are doing what the manager's asking of them. Because if they are, then we've got major problems. And if they're not, I think it's excusable.
What do you think?
I think it's very difficult to tell, genuinely, because if it is that they are doing what he's telling them to, and obviously that means that what he's telling them is the wrong thing, then it would feel like such a massive change from the manager that we saw last season. And this is the thing that I'm really struggling to get my head around as well, because so many times the manager was able to assess what was going on in the game and adapt. And we heard from some of the players about...
They were great at half-times.
They were great at half-times, but even before half-times, you remember players talking about how the manager, in the team meeting before the game even started, would tell you, well, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And the amount of times that he was right, and they were able to then deal with it. So for him to have lost that eye, that critical eye, to be able to analyse and assess what is going wrong, and then to be able to transmit it to the players, that's a big problem. The idea that he is doing that and the players are unable to do it for mental reasons, I think physical reasons come into it as well for some of them, the difference in pre-season, etc. That's equally as big a problem, but it feels a little bit harder to fix.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one, if that is the problem, then obviously it's probably going to be a change of manager. But the problem is that if you do end up with the change of manager, and it's that problem, is it going to fix it?
Yeah.
And I mean, it is hard to continually to talk about these things, but I mean, it was his birthday yesterday. Like, we know this. They definitely know this. Like, there would have been conversations about that at some point yesterday. Whether that had an effect, we don't know. But I think all of this just makes it really hard to assess what's going on. And normally as football fans, we have things that we can rely on and say, well, okay, if the players aren't putting the effort in, it's clear that they don't fancy the manager and they're trying to get a regime change, all those kind of things. I just don't think those rules apply just as simply this time, which isn't to say that there is no blame on the manager and that there is nothing that they can do to improve it. It's hard to be as definitive about exactly what and where and how much of that exists in this particular moment.
Do you think as well we can put too much weight sometimes into what managers say after the game? And I say this to the person who's often answered the questions, and so, but I sometimes see there was a few comments last night about that he'd said, and people kind of jumping on it going, I can't believe he sort of thinks this, and I'm like, well, he's not going to tell you exactly what he's thinking all the time. If he's telling them one thing and the players aren't doing it, like he's unlikely to sort of throw them under the bus, especially if he's got sympathy for what they've sort of been through. And so I think Arne Slot's really interested in pre-match, and I like listening to the press conference and thinking about where his head's at and things like that. But I think post-match, it's sort of like, especially the number of interviews they often have to do that we don't see because we just see what's going out there for UK. But if it's on all the TV channels, then there's expectations there as well. I think I don't know what you think, but it feels to me we need to be a little bit careful to read too much into these immediate post-match comments.
I agree. There are a couple of things about that. One, when Liverpool are playing badly week after week and it's hard, then people are going to pick on anything he says.
Yeah.
There is almost nothing good he could say that everyone's going to be like, oh, okay, fair enough. There's always going to be someone who finds something wrong with something. But in terms of the actual moment to ask him and to analyse what he's saying, I agree with that as well. I think when you watch him, you can see there's a difference between how he is emotionally, how he feels in a post-match game compared to in the AXA in the morning when he's had a bit more time to digest, probably watched the game back, probably had a few more chats with his coaches. Because when he comes into the post-match press conference, he comes straight off the pitch and then having to do a post-match interview with TV, and then maybe another one, and then maybe another one, and then maybe another one. So he's already had to answer for whatever's happened 3 or 4 times before he comes into where we get to see it. So then he feels like he can't really just say the same thing over and over and over and over again. So again, it becomes almost like third-hand kind of analysis.
Yeah.
So yes, there's a long-winded way of saying yes, I do take everything he says post-match, particularly with a pinch of salt. But I think that doesn't necessarily mean to say that when so for Friday, for example, I think what he says about the game will probably be a little bit more easy to understand, a little bit more easy to digest.
Sorry, I think also just on that in terms of managing within the game, how much do we talk about these players being so good at doing that themselves in moments? And, we talk about, McAllister being the manager's man, really, under the Jurgen Klopp, under Arne Slot as well. But I think we're in a position now where a lot of these players are so out of form themselves and making mistakes, uncharacteristic mistakes, where it's sort of now we're in a phase where everyone's a bit like, I need to focus on my game. And there's less of the kind of, let's bring the collective into it. I think the only one you really see that from as much, obviously Van Dijk does it as he naturally does, but Szoboszlai is the one because he's the only one who looks vaguely confident that he's playing to his level and he's playing to his abilities. And I think when we talk about the adversity being thrown at the team, going behind in games and it usually ending up as a loss, I think that's where you can attribute, everything that happened in the summer mixed with the new players to where that kind of that mentality of being able to overcome that sort of thing has gone a bit. Because I mean, this team has shown it in abundance over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. The players that have been there, during the Klopp era and even last season have all been able to overcome issues in games going a goal behind. And you don't just lose that overnight. You don't that doesn't just like empty out of you. So it's got to take something to make you feel a bit like I can't get myself up. Oh, we've suffered a setback. I can't I can't come again and go again. So I feel like that's where I do have a lot of sympathy for them because they have gone through a huge thing in the summer. The new players have come in, and it's sort of while you're trying to integrate these new people, you have this massive, this massive sort of experience everyone's going through, and in their own personal ways and as a collective. So then that does translate onto the pitch. We talk about creating a good atmosphere in the training ground and how that reflects in the team. When things are difficult, it's going to reflect on the pitch, isn't it? And I think that's where I cut them a lot of slack. And yesterday, at least, they show that they can take a bit of a knock and they can have that thing where, you could very easily tell yourself, that ball deflects off Van Dijk and should go anywhere, and it ends up in the bottom corner. And you know, I was looking at it going like, you know, yes, they're not playing well, and that's fair to criticise them, but they can't catch a break either. Like anything that the opposition team sometimes hit now just goes in one way or the other. So I have a lot of sympathy in that sense, and I have a bit of hope now that they've overcome that, and they can tell themselves a story. The manager can tell them a story that, look, you had that unfair setback in a game, and you managed to kind of galvanise and go get something from the game. And the main thing is, you know, they stopped losing, and I think that's where I really reach for them. Like, you just lost that much that it's just got to stop, and it's hard to stomach a draw, but I'll take it given the last few weeks.
Well, I took a draw to West Ham, so maybe I'll just flip the results in the head and just to make myself feel better. It's just before, Adam, you were talking about low expectations from this season, and not low expectations, but you know, adjusting, you know, how you feel about, you know, maybe results not being what you normally expect from a Liverpool team. And part of me wonders whether someone at the club, I don't know who that'd be. Would that be Richard Hughes? Would that be Billy Hogan? I don't know. I don't think it should be Arne Slot, but almost sort of coming out and saying, listen, because of everything that's happened, because of what it's affected the team, we're not personally, you know, treating this like any other season. And part of me wonders whether that would help if they say, if someone acknowledged, you know, said this has been harder for the group of players and the manager and everyone. You know, you always focus on the manager and the players. He was so popular in the whole club. I don't know how much people in the media team loved him and the people who just work at the training ground. And so, if someone come out and said that, part of me thinks would partly, first of all, that'd maybe help, but you know, secondly, take the pressure off a little bit. But also, we know how much of a factor it is then. But then I do suspect that the players don't want that. If you said to the players, like, we'll do that, they'd be like, no, what we want to do is win the next 7 games, win the Champions League. Yeah. That's what we want to do. Yeah, what are you talking about? Do you know what I mean? And so, like, there's probably this strange kind of, you know, contradiction between, like, what's sort of happening at the moment and being fair to the players, but also I'm sure that no one wants to turn this around more than they do.
Look, I think that's really true. I think it's such an impossible situation, and I think the players, the professionals don't want excuses. Right? They won't want excuses. Full stop. They definitely won't want an excuse, which is effectively it's because that guy died. That's it. They definitely will not want to be how they might perceive blaming somebody. You know, the death on. You know,
sorry, Adam, you might not even be aware of how much it's affecting you.
Listen, I said, so I was chatting to Beth with the 5 things of the week, and I was saying, like, in a personal sense, when I got diagnosed with MS, that was like I've never lost anybody close to me particularly, but when I got diagnosed with MS, that was like a loss. I lost my life before then, if that makes sense, and that hit me like a ton of bricks, and I didn't even realise it at the time, right? And I was having suicidal thoughts. I was thinking my life's over now, my life's a waste of time. I made terrible career decisions that I'm still paying for now, years after the fact. Awful things like decisions that I did. And it felt like the pressure cooker was building up in me. And I was like, I can't tell my wife that I'm having suicidal thoughts because she'll never got the house. She'll never leave me alone. I can't tell my friends because they'll just be constantly worrying about me. I don't know what to do. And I felt like that I was going to burst, basically, from this situation that I found myself in, right? And that was something where, yes, it was a huge impact for me. And it was maybe more difficult because it was only me that it happened to, although obviously it affected my wife's life, etc., etc. But this is a group of people who've had this thing happen to them. There's all of them together having this, like, but each having their own reaction to it, you know. And like it's stupid stuff that will enter your head when you're feeling that way, right? So I couldn't say to you, for example, that there isn't a player there going, I mean, obviously, Szoboszlai didn't care as much as I did because he's playing really well. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then you're almost resentful of somebody for having a good game, which is like, and that's insane. And you know that's insane, and you know that's stupid, and you know it's ridiculous. But you can't help yourself because of the situation because you're not in control of your emotions, and you know there's like we literally had something like 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, where Andy Robertson basically came out and said, "I'm really still coping and finding it difficult because of it. And everyone went, "Oh, right, yeah, but you're shite at the moment to play him right." Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just dismissed out of hand, basically, by the wider footballing world.
So I think it was accepted that day, and then 3 days
later. Funnily enough, that's what this Dutch interview said. He was like, it's in the news for day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, but by day 7 it's not, something else is, but you're still struggling with the news. So, like, would it help the fans if somebody at the club came out and said, listen, we're not treating this season like a different one? Yeah, it probably would. Would it help the players? Maybe not. But more to the point, I think they've kind of said it, because we lost 7 games out of 9 or whatever it was. We lost 5 league home games in a row, whatever it was. And there was never any murmurs coming out of the club about the manager's future. So they've effectively said we're treating this like a different season without actually saying it, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I think it's really difficult.
There's a really good episode on the sports agents where it's literally just titled "Why Can't We Let Liverpool Grieve?" and it's got Mark Chapman, it's got Gabby Logan, Steve Warnock, and they got sports psychologists on there. And I'd encourage everyone to listen, because it does give you a completely different perspective. And the psychologist says on there that it's unlikely, as a collective and individuals, they wouldn't have reached peak grief yet. He expects that to be in the kind of springtime, and that sort of, really like makes you stop and think. Like, it puts everything into perspective. Warnock talked about his own experiences, losing people, and the nature of football just moving so quickly. And I think, like, that's something constantly totally do have to check ourselves with. And for me, it's sort of, these players can't just become bad overnight. That something massive has to sort of cause that, and something, obviously there's a few different factors, but there's got to be something that sort of switches the mentality in the way that it has. The kind of physicality that we've seen just kind of diminish. It's not purely a pre-season thing. That does stem from something subconscious that they're all going through individually, but then also there's that collective level to it as well. To manage both is just like, it shouldn't be any football manager's job, and it shouldn't be any football club's, job necessarily. No one's sort of expecting that when you take that career path. And they've all found themselves, having to do that for each other and for themselves at the same time.
And in a very public way when it's working.
This is what I was going to say as well, is under the public microscope, where everybody has an opinion of you and how you're dealing with this thing. You have obviously what you went through, Adam, was really, really harrowing, but there are times when the fact that you had it to yourself was a blessing.
Yeah.
They don't have that ability, and so everybody's gonna have different ideas on what they should be doing, how they're supposed to get out of it. And even something as rudimentary as, well, obviously they're not listening to Slot anymore, Slot has to go, that whole momentum that it's still building around the idea that solves anything is an old football model that doesn't necessarily apply to this unique situation. Because, what's to say the players aren't going to suddenly feel guilty if they end up getting the manager who will help them lift the title, the boot, and then the new person comes to come in and has to deal with that mental situation on top of everything else. And I just think that it makes all of our lives really, really difficult, because normally we have so many things that we can rely on to say, well, when you're in this situation, that normally works. When you're in this situation, that normally works. And like I say, none of those rules really apply, but we still need to find a way. There still needs to be a solution. We still need to be able to turn up.
Games of football are going to keep
coming. And we're going to need to be able to go to them and expect and hope to see the players who we know can perform to the absolute level. And whatever it is, I'm not a sports psychologist, I'm not a coach, I'm not a magician, so I don't have the answer. But
Shamey's the opposition.
I also love the idea of the players are sitting there like mourning, and this fella's going.
Well, okay, maybe more of a genie than a magician is what I meant. But the point is that someone's going to have to figure this out, and I'm glad it's not me.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But it's not any of us, and it is on the manager, and he's wearing it at the moment. He looks like he's taking responsibility, to a certain degree for what's going on, and he needs to find the solution. One small positive that he's got sort of on the pitch is Florian Wirtz involved again in a positive performance. I don't think he was quite as good as he was against West Ham. West Ham gave him the run of East London to run around. He was in the Queen Vic at one point, pulling pints, but he you know, he'll really have a nicer day than in the Olympic Stadium. But he's not scored. We thought he'd scored, and then we got back to the pub and realised it'd been taken off him. But he's still involved in a big goal, and that's a nice moment for him.
100%. He can feel like he scored in a number of ways. He had the moment on the pitch. He had the moment with the crowd, all that. He didn't look particularly happy, but I'm happy about that because it was, this has not been good enough. We want to go get a second and win this now. He's definitely been a shining light. My biggest thing now is, we're in the situation we're in. I accept all of that. And I just want to see now the team set up in a way where I can see who we're trying to get the best out of.
Yeah.
And whether that's Wirtz or Isak or, Mo Salah, I just want a plan to kind of be very much pinned on someone like that. And I think now moving forward, given that Salah's going to be away, Isak as well, who just, I think it's very hard to sort of see, to get the best out of him when everything else behind him is not working fluently, because at the end of the day, he is there for output. And he is there to be, put the finishing touches. Not that he can't do other things and sprinkle a bit of magic on moments, but Florian Wirtz is the one where now the team needs to sort of be dictated by what's best for him and how we can get the best out of him. I feel like there's enough time, enough evidence now that he's adapted to the league in terms of the pace of it, the physicality. It's now getting him in positions where he can be the most effective. And I personally don't think it's in the second half where we see him out on the left wing loads of that game, and he's sort of having to make these overlapping runs for Robertson to play a blind ball over, and it's just not natural for him to be in those positions. So I think when he does find a partner, when he does find someone to play with, that's when he's at his best. And for those last 10 minutes, it felt like he was the only one. I mean, the last 10 were hard watch, weren't they, in terms of Liverpool's shape? I mean, there wasn't one. What the plan was in terms of just trying to knock it in the box. But he was the only one who looked like he wanted to play a bit of football, try and bring others into the game. And whether that's sort of getting him closer to the likes of Salah and Szoboszlai, then great, because I think he needs those bodies around him. He needs movement around him. I'm very much keen to build on what we've seen in the last two games. He very much looked like a player who'd been far away from any crime scenes in the last few weeks with the injury. And I feel like I just want to preserve that fresh energy he's brought in, and then also kind of build around him and make sure the team kind of functions to get him in the best positions.
Okay, we're going to have a quick interlude now. In a second, you're going to hear from me again. I'm sorry, a lot of me today, talking to the guys from Acquire With No Name about a big gig they've got coming up this Christmas. But speaking of Christmas, I reckon Fuad's bought 0 Christmas presents. So far. He's got that kind of vibe. Yeah. Adam's done bits, a little bit online, been delivered to the house, he's had to hide it away. Mo's got some good ideas in his head, that sort of thing. But I've got something here, which is a gorgeous digital photo frame. I need to plug it in because I've let the battery run out. So just before I do that, it's a great personal gift for the people you struggle with for Christmas. It looks great and it's easy to use, and it is this order frame, this beautiful thing right here. You can upload unlimited photos and video and keep adding to them anywhere, anytime, and it even comes in a premium gift box. So there we go. So if you go to orderframes.co.uk, you can get £35 off the best-selling Carver mat frame by using the promo code TAW at checkout. So order yours now. Sorry I didn't get it loaded up, but that's what it looks like. It does look absolutely beautiful. There should be a picture of Fuad. I loaded up loads of pictures of Fuad. Especially there's a picture
I'll just do that instead.
with Jurgen Klopp, and then I unplugged it. So that is my fault. But we'll get it back for you next week. But you can see how handsome it looks. You can see how fantastic. And I think your mum would love it. Fuad, loads of pictures of you.
Great chat. Hope she doesn't watch this because it's really surprising.
And you get £35 off.
And I get
the Carver mat using the code TAW. So there we are. I'm just going to leave that there, and hopefully it'll come on at some point. But yeah, in the meantime, this right now is going to be me talking to the guys from Acquire With No Name about the choir, what the fantastic work they do up and down the country, and this show at Christmas. So check it out. It is John Gibbons, and I'm joined in our studio by a couple of friends from the Choir With No Name. It is Sonia and Ant. Thanks so much for coming in to see us.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot for having us. It's great to be here.
I know from my brass band days that it's a busy time if you're in a choir or a band or anything like that, and it's similar for you guys. You've got a big gig coming up that we're going to talk about. But first of all, if anyone who's watching or listening who doesn't know about Acquire With No Name, what can you tell us about it and why it exists?
Absolutely. So I'm Sonia. I'm the current manager of the Choir With No Name in Liverpool. The Choir with No Name was set up to provide a welcoming community to people who've experienced homelessness or marginalisation. So obviously marginalisation can cover a range of issues and complexities, and it's an opportunity for people to come together every week, have a cup of tea, have a catch up, do a bit of singing as a group, and then everyone has a hot meal together, which is provided for by our amazing team of volunteers. So we are from the Liverpool choir, but we do actually have choirs across the country. There's 6 choirs in total. And we've been running since 2014, so the choir is 11 years old in Liverpool this year.
Fantastic. And tell us about your involvement, Hans.
So I actually joined the choir 8 years ago now. It seems like it was yesterday because that time has just flown. At the time, I was living in a really unstable environment. I had quite a few problems. My biggest problem probably at the time was with drugs and alcohol. I had undiagnosed PTSD and I was sort of just trying to help myself, which obviously never works. And when I joined, someone invited me along to the choir, and I just had such a lovely evening there, and I was just around such supportive people, just felt comfortable. And at that time, like I say, I was having some issues with drugs and alcohol, and even though if you'd asked me then, are you enjoying your life right now, I'd say, God, you must be kidding. But I just couldn't imagine life without it. You know, my whole life revolved around it, one way or another. You know, when I saw my friends on the weekend, both my brothers are musicians, and, you know, even when you watch a match, there's always alcohol involved. But I just couldn't picture life without it. And when I went to this event, my first session, I was having such a nice time that it just didn't even pop into my head. And I had this epiphany moment. Oh, hang on a sec. Maybe I actually can enjoy my life without drugs and alcohol. So I went off, and when I got some help, that was 8 years ago now. I've been sober ever since. And I've had, you know, ups and downs during that period, but one thing I could always rely on was the choir. There was one night a week where I was always with friends, always supported, and always having a nice time. And honestly, that really got me through. So that's my history with the choir. I've been there through all the ups and downs, all the bad times, and all the great times as well. And hopefully another 8 years to come. So,
I mean, that's incredible. I'm sure that there's so many people who have a story sort of similar to yours, not just in Liverpool, but as Sandy says, it's nationwide. So if you think about the number of people who've been in your situation, who maybe, like you say, have not known a way out of their current situation, and then are suddenly, you know, presented with alternatives, it's an incredible thing.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's a common theme that comes up. Like when you see in the choir, there's people there from all walks of life.
Yeah.
And we're all united by our love of music. It's a bit like when you go to match. Yeah, you know, you only see one thing that you have in common, a passion. But as times goes on, we've got to know each other, and then we felt more comfortable to reveal some of the, you know, our background. And it is a common theme that people have came there with addiction and have found a way out. And part of it, well, you know, you need to go and get professional help, but part of it was just having this one thing they can rely on. And so the choir is changing people's lives up and down the country. It's not just in Liverpool, but it's changed my life, and I know it's had that same influence on other people too.
Incredible. We've done some work with Liverpool Homeless FC, and they talk about a similar thing around you just getting people down to have a game of footy, and for this, it's we'll just come down and sing some songs with the choir, or just come down and join in. And you know, if you were to say to people, "Oh, come down and we're gonna talk about your addiction or talk about any issues you might have," people are like, "Oh, that sounds scary." It sounds scary to all of us, do you know what I mean? You know, but it's not come down and open up, or not come down and we're going to try and solve all your problems. It's come down and just to have a sing and have some fun and see if you like it. And then, as Anne says, people then open up over time once you trust people and once you feel part of something that's bigger than just you.
And it's totally a personal choice for them, you know, it like we've talked about, everyone's at a different place, and some people may have quite complex things going on. Some people have very much moved forward from that and they've got quite stable lives, but they still really value being part of that community. And I think it's a way to build confidence. There are so many ways in which getting that opportunity to go and do gigs and perform and shine, and you know, Ant had a solo yesterday, and we're in gig season now, so we've just come fresh off doing a gig for the World AIDS Day Vigil, So, you know, giving these people opportunities that they would not have had otherwise, and that ability to be brave enough to step forward and go for it, it's just beautiful.
Fantastic. So you mentioned gig season, you've got something coming up on the 14th of December. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are doing a big Christmas sing-along. It's going to be at the Tongue Auditorium on Sunday, the 14th of December at 7 o'clock. And it's the third time now that we've been at the Tongue for our Christmas show. So we're really excited to be back there. It's a beautiful venue. And it's an opportunity for people to come along, hear some of their Christmas faves. There will be some songs that are very much sing-along. So the words will be provided at the back.
Fantastic.
So if you don't need to know the words, we've got guest performers, so we've got Asylum Link Merseyside Choir joining us and a choir from PSS called Sing, Sing, Sing. So we've got a couple of guest performances, we've got a band. It's just going to be a brilliant night, and we just want as many people as possible to come and join in the fun.
It just does get you in the festive spirit, don't it? Sitting like getting down, singing some Christmas bangers and just feeling like, yeah, Christmas has started now. You're looking forward to it?
Absolutely, yeah. So the other thing is as well, each year I've invited people to come and it's not really been their kind of thing, but they've came to support me and they've walked in like, you know, ebony as a screws, really humble, going, okay, I'll do it. And by the time we've finished, they've been singing their hearts out just like everybody else. So it's a really uplifting thing. We're the ones who benefit the most as the choir singing, but everybody walks away with smiles on their face. So I know it'll be a special night for anyone who wanted to come.
It's just going to be such a laugh.
Yeah.
It's also a big opportunity for us to fundraise
Yeah.
and raise the profile of the choir, and just show everybody what we do. So, you know, that's also a big part of it for us.
Yeah, because presumably you're fully reliant on fundraising to put on these sessions. You mentioned the food that people get available as well. That all comes from fundraising.
100%. So we do get funded by various different grants, and any donations that we receive on the night and all the ticket sales, they will all go straight back into the Choir with No Name Liverpool and the work that we do here in Liverpool. So it's all ring fenced for us. And yeah, it provides the food that we put on the table every week. It helps us, you know, sometimes we need to cover people's travel expenses. Just helps us do all the amazing stuff that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Is there a bit of competition on the night, or have I watched too much Pitch Perfect? I don't know. Is that allowed for you? You must get first pick of tunes. It's your gig, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think there is competition because if there was, we'd just win it anyway. So it's unfair to see it like that. They're our supporting acts. They're part of the bigger picture, but you know, so we just try and make it easy for them. There's no competition.
We did. Thank you very much. We did choose the songs as a community, though, didn't we? Because we've basically got a list of the ones that we've done over the years, and then we vote based on who wants to do different songs more or less.
And it's really important to know as well that we're not singing carols, we're singing absolute bangers. We get all the best music and put it together. So people won't be disappointed.
Well, listen, if you want to get in the festive spirit, I can't think of anything better than singing your heart out, enjoying the Christmas tunes, and of course supporting a fantastic charity who are doing great work up and down the country and here in Liverpool as well. Thank you so much for coming in. Good luck with it. Good luck with everything that you guys are doing. It's incredible how you, like Anthony's spoke so eloquently, changing people's lives in the city, and now you're an advocate for them as well, which is brilliant. So good luck with it. I'll try and clear my diary and get down. You'll hear me.
Please do.
Please do come. Please come.
Yeah, I do try and come along. And if you can't, I'm sure there's ways to support on the website as well.
So we've got the website, Choir with No Name, and you can donate on there. There are ways to donate and ring fence it for Liverpool if you want to, or you can get in touch with me, Sonia, at choirwithnoname.org. That might be easier for some people. So if you can't be there, you can just get in touch, and there are other ways to support what we do.
Yeah, and keep you going. Huge thanks for coming in. Thanks for Rowan, subscribing, and put us all in touch. And yeah, support the guys if you can.
Thanks very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, just another quick interlude. We have teamed up with the people from Think, and it's about the dangers of drug driving. So I just want to read this out so I make sure I get it all correct. Drugs mess with your reaction time, focus, and judgment. Exactly what you need to drive safely. So even if you might feel fine, your body and brain say otherwise. And drugs can stay in your system for longer than you think, sometimes for days after. More and more, especially at this time of year, the police are testing people at the roadside if they suspect them of driving on drugs. I've seen it myself on the Dock Road when I'm driving it in the morning. They are pulling people over there. It's a simple swipe, and if you're positive, it'll mean losing your license for a minimum of a year, an unlimited fine, and ended up with a criminal record. It could cost you your job and give you trouble traveling to other countries like the USA, and that's before we even consider the harm you might cause others. In short, it's not worth the risk. Now, listen, no one at the Anfield Wrap is going to tell you what you can and can't do in your private life, but it is good to remind ourselves of the importance of making a plan and looking out for yourself and your mates. So that could be booking a taxi or arranging to stay over at someone's house, or leaving the car at work like I did yesterday so you can get the train in the morning. It only takes one mistake, but you could be regretting it for a lifetime. So don't put drugs in the driving seat. Thanks a lot to the guys from Quiet With No Name for coming in. Do support them if you can. If you can't get to the gig, look up what they're doing. There might be something near you, or just do support them. It's a fantastic thing of what they're doing. And we're going to talk about Leeds United. It is the Stewart derby.
Yeah.
That's what they call it. Your sister, I mean, she must be feeling good after that Chelsea result.
The Texans have already begun. Yes. I mean, yeah, so I was actually there to see them play City last Saturday. And I called her afterwards and said, you know what? You gave them one hell of a scare.
Yeah.
She was just like, I know that game was in there somewhere. They've been playing poorly for a long time, but the plan was there. They just hadn't been able to execute it. But when they switched to two strikers at half time, it was like a different team. Suddenly, Leeds had gone away and AC Milan came out from the 90s. It was, yeah. And then watching them play against Chelsea last night, watching it back today, it was the same thing again. They went with that same strategy and it worked. So you know they're going to go up against it again. And I remember asking Virgil about this, I think towards the end of last season when we were playing someone in Europe who was playing with two strikers, and about the difference and how, because obviously everyone doesn't do it anymore. You've come so far into this 4-3-3, wide forwards, one striker kind of world. It's a very different thing. And he was like, well, the way that some teams play when they've got a number 10, it doesn't really feel that different. But to watch Man City, it looked like it was a completely alien. I mean, like the centre halves just ran into each other, which was admittedly quite funny to watch at the time. But thinking about Liverpool and where we're at right now, and how much training time they don't have.
Our defenders will run into each other without it up front. No, don't worry about that.
And when you remember that one of them is a certain Mr. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's already given some of our defenders a really rough time of it when he was playing for Everton.
Yeah.
You can see how all of these things... I might be going overboard here because, as you said, I'm slightly paranoid about losing this game. But it's almost like the worst possible time for Liverpool to be playing Leeds United in a lot of ways. But that means if they can overcome this, then it becomes even more valuable. That's the way I'm choosing to look at it.
Yeah, there's so much going against them. The fact that it's 5:30 on a Saturday, the fact that they get this big win in midweek, so they know what that feels like, so they'll be coming in confident. The crowd, they look so up for it last night. I won't be surprised if some of them just don't go home. They're like, well, drink through to Saturday and go again. They look like in the mood.
It's a little fun fair down by the ground. They might just be hanging out there.
And so they'll be bang up for it, and they'll also know exactly what Liverpool don't like, and so they're going to throw the kitchen sink and all sorts. The crowd's going to be up, but like Mo says, if they can deal with it and then get out with a positive result, then it should make us all feel a lot better.
Yeah, totally. I like that spin on it. I'd like to get myself into the place where I'm thinking like that. I'll give it a few hours and maybe I'll be there. But I think, yeah, definitely. If they get through it, it's another one. You can even use Sunderland as that example, really, in terms of the results they've had and the type of side they are. That that could very easily be a narrow defeat, and you kind of wouldn't have been that surprised. So if they get to the other side of Leeds, and they've won. I mean, it is big because at the moment we're at that place of building each bit of confidence and momentum piece by piece. I don't think expecting the side to go on a long winning run is realistic now. It's about going unbeaten. It's about not losing games of football, and especially back-to-back defeats. That just needs to be completely stamped out. So yeah, I worry in the sense that if Liverpool's weaknesses are there for everyone to see, and I think once you've sort of lost that little bit of that shield that you kind of had, and that slight thing you get into the opposition's mind before a ball's even kicked, where they're more fearful of you than you are of them,
Spider.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Once you confront one, you're just like, oh, it doesn't do much, does it? It's just, it's just got a few legs. I don't know where I was going with that.
You'd adapted to the situation. That was good improv, wasn't it?
I was like, humanize a spider. That's all I had.
It is
Yeah,
just a few legs.
just a few legs. I've gone.
Sorry, mate. That's totally my fault.
Absolutely done him.
How many human legs?
It's a lot like Leeds. There's just a few legs, bodies on them, running round. Yeah.
You're a professional.
Do you think Leeds United are more scared of us, to be honest?
No, I don't.
I don't think so either.
Much like spiders, the little pricks. No, look. If you want another positive spin, like Mo's tried to give us a positive spin on it, the last 2 times that we've watched a team have to play a long period of a game with 10 men, where they've pulled something out of the bag in that particular game. Everton beat Manchester United. Chelsea got a draw with Arsenal. Both times they've then been battered the match afterwards. Everton lost 4-1 to Newcastle. Obviously, Leeds have beaten Chelsea 3-1. So I'm not trying to take anything away from Leeds, but Chelsea were maybe not the team that Chelsea have been this season. That going into it, because a lot of them would have been shattered, and they even making changes doesn't help, because then you lack the unity and things like that. So I think that there is a world in which Liverpool turn up and give Leeds more of a shock than they're expecting, because they're expecting the meek and mild performance that we gave against Sunderland, and they're expecting to be able to roll a team over like they did Chelsea, but they rolled Chelsea over because Chelsea had 10 men the game before and were all shattered. Liverpool, hopefully, can put more of the... as much as the last 10 minutes was terrible to watch, because, totally right, we didn't know where anybody was playing apart from Chiesa at centre-back. The one thing you will say was it felt more like what we should have seen for the previous 80 minutes. The 10 minutes where they felt like they were trying to turn the screw, even if they didn't quite know how to do it. If we can turn up and have the last 10 minutes of the Sunderland game as the first half an hour, 45 minutes of the Leeds game, it would be a different proposition.
I think it's fascinating what he does in terms of team selection.
Yeah.
He mentioned the fact before the last game that Bradley might be in contention. And when he took off Joe Gomez in this game, it was partly, we need a little bit more attacking, but I think it was also a bit of an admission that it hadn't worked as well as it did against West Ham. So maybe this is a time, if he is available, to unleash him. I also think that Slot was a little bit reluctant to play Gomez and Salah. I think he mentioned in talking about Joe how much how much benefit he'd had from having Szoboszlai ahead of him. So maybe this is a time to put Bradley and Salah back together.
Yeah, because they play well together in the past.
They have played well together in the past. Obviously, Bradley's going to want to make up for lost time. Obviously, Salah's going to be burning from the fact that he's not been picked the last 2 games. And then you've got the other side. Gakpo. I mean, I don't really need to say much more than that, because that snort kind of said a lot. But he hooks him at half-time, and then in talking about it, he doesn't really kind of protect him as you've seen him protect some other players when they've been in that situation. He was like, I didn't think he was winning enough of his one-on-ones. It's like, well, he's the left winger. Like, if he's not doing that, what is he doing?
Cutting in and shooting over the bar. That's what he's doing. He's got that one nailed.
Yeah, some of them got blocked.
But going back to what Fuad was saying about flowing verse, and I absolutely agree that we need to try to make it so we're getting the best out of him. Getting the best out of him is not having your left winger running over into his space. It's having your left winger stretch the play to create more space for him to work in. It's the same thing as the reason why you want Isak to stretch the play, to run in, be that running behind threat. So Bielsa's got more space to work his magic. So I wonder if this might be the time that we see what Ekitike from the left looks like. Because I don't think he's going to start Rio. And I don't think that Gakpo is going to come straight back in after getting hooked half time and him saying that he was just not up to it, essentially. So maybe this is the time that we finally see that. We've heard lots of talk about it. Maybe it's time to see it.
Yeah,
He's told me to.
I'm in for it from 5 weeks ago, to be honest. I really, Gakpo has frustrated me, to be honest, and I think you just see when Ekitike comes on, there is that kind of that little bit more cuteness, that ability on the ball to go both ways in terms of the inside and outside. And I feel like that is what we need going forward. We need a little bit more. I know Leeds is in that context. It's going to be tough. It's going to be about containing some of the intensity. But Liverpool now need to try and match intensity with intensity. It's not just about containing the opposition. And there needs to be a bit of kind of joy in the attacking football. It feels very kind of high pressured, and that's understandable given the low confidence. But I think Ekitike brings that. I think we get more in terms of stretching play, being a bit smart in terms of going outside and coming inside as well. And yeah, for me, just like Mo said there, it is about Wirtz and getting him in positions where he can sort of get the ball to the players, you can put the finishing touches on. And I think that's probably our best way of doing it, to be honest. And I think we're now in a position where we can probably go with, you know, the two in midfield in terms of Szoboszlai and Gravenberch. My slight worry is some point Szoboszlai is going to need a rest. And that's going to be a tough watch when he's out of the team. But like, I don't think it's this one. I think he has to go through this one because just the nature of the away game, the kind of intensity that there will be from the start, I'd imagine. But I want as dynamic of a Liverpool team as possible, and I think Ekitike brings that.
Yeah, Szoboszlai's getting his rest soon. But not today. You're going to have to rest him at some point. There's a week off at some point, isn't there? You'll have to kind of up. He can rest then.
Yeah.
He'll do loads of life.
There's a reason they call him Duracell Dom.
Well, exactly, yeah. You're just going to have to get on with it. Mate, you know what we've got right now. Listen, there's loads more. Well, there is going to be loads more looking ahead to Leeds United game on the Anfield Wrap. So there'll be pre-match warm-up tomorrow, which will be, well, as close as possible straight after the press conference. So Ian Ryan will be hosting that. Really looking forward to that. And then straight after the game, post-match reaction, audio and video. We're doing them back here in Liverpool. Some of the lads are going over to the game as well. So the social will be on point. So fantastic stuff. So hopefully we can get a big win on Saturday. Enjoy that. But it's a great time to subscribe to the Anfield Wrap. We'd love to have you on board. Just download the app. You can get some tokens. You can give these subscription shows a little bit of go if you didn't enjoy them as part of our free week, and you can also get gift subscriptions at the moment as well if you want to give it a go that way. But huge thanks to Mo, to Fuad and Adam. I'm off to find out if that terrible career move that Adam talked about was getting involved with the Anfield Wrap. I'll try to bring it up at the time, but I'm going to have a word. Up the Reds.